welcome back to this week's episode of Outside the Arena. I'm Griffin Senek, joined by my co-host Devin Bernstein, and we're back this week, and a lot has happened in the past week. College football finally has kicked off. A lot to talk about there. We're going to start off with some prime time in a minute. We're also going to hit the NFL Lions-Chiefs on Thursday. We're filming this on Labor Day, so happy Labor Day if you're watching this today. Not sure when this will come out, but we got Lions-Chiefs kickoff, an incredible game to start the NFL season, and then week one, Sunday through Monday, finishing it off. But like we said, we're going to start off in the college football world, and it's only right to start with Deion Sanders and Colorado. I mean, unbelievable win, 45-42 against TCU. I think, honestly, it's crazy to say something in week one is the game of the year, but I feel like it's going to be hard for any game in college football this season to top this game. It's had everything you could be looking for, from storylines to fun halftime quotes to just Twitter going crazy. I mean, this was an incredible game. One of the best games I think I've ever watched in college football. Devin, your thoughts? Obviously, Colorado, kind of proven that the hype is real.
Yeah. I mean, wow, there is so much to say about this game. You have obviously Deion's son going off. I don't know if anyone saw the story about how he went to a camp that the TCU offensive coordinator was running, and he didn't really pay him any attention. And then, he and his dad kind of wanted to show him up. And then obviously you have Travis Hunter playing both sides of the ball incredibly well for 100 snaps and 100-degree heat. And then when it comes down to the X's and O's, you look at it and you're like, wow, Colorado was prepared. They were in shape. They had a good offensive line. I mean, you expected all the glamour and the recruiting and all this to come with Deion, but the preparation was really impressive and really what won them this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this offense is defensively, there's definitely a lot of work for this team. They had, obviously Travis Hunter, and we'll kind of just talk about him on his own in a second. But this defense, they had some turnovers, but other than that, they had a lot of trouble stopping the run. There were moments where, both of these teams, I think, were just gassed at the end. It was 100 degrees, so it's understandable that, guys are slowing down. But offensively, this team just has playmakers. Shadur Sanders, right away has entered himself into Heisman conversation. 510 yards, a school record in his first career game in Colorado. Pretty insane. And then obviously the freshman Dylan Edwards, 4 total touchdowns. And like we said, Travis Hunter, something we really haven't seen in college football for a while. It feels like, he's drawn the Deion Sanders comparisons, and it's as accurate as you can get. This guy's an absolute weapon. Had an interception, 11 catches. What are your thoughts on him? Obviously, we've heard about this guy. He was a former number 1 overall recruit who went to Jackson State, followed Deion, now in Colorado. What do you think about this kid? And, do you think it seems like he's got a very legit shot at the Heisman.
Yeah, get this kid on the Eagles is all I have to say. Yeah, so he flashed. Obviously, he's an elite athlete, number 1 recruit. I believe this is a true sophomore season, and you can really see there's not many kids on the field who can keep up with him when he runs routes, who can match his explosiveness and coverage. This kid's got it all, the mentality. Apparently he texted Deion at 6 a.m. on game day, let's do this. And they did it. And I have no real analysis to give on what this means for Colorado's season or what it means for, this sort of Deion Sanders era, except for that I am really excited and will be watching every single second of it. That's what I can tell you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this team has almost captivated the nation at this point. I think everyone is a Colorado fan. And yeah, like you said, Travis Hunter, he's just a freak athlete. And the fact that he was playing, you look at halftime and he's they're asking Deion, he's played 60 snaps. How are you going to keep him fresh? And he was kind of he said exactly, and I quote, he is him. And Travis Hunter is him. This is pure insanity what we're watching. But like you said, this Colorado team, let's kind of look a little bigger picture now. Obviously, they just knocked off a team that was played in the national championship game. Their schedule is pretty tough, though. They go, their home opener is going to be against Nebraska, who, another Power 5 team. Probably, after week 1, I feel like Colorado going to be heavily favored in that. But then you look down the line a few weeks after, they go to Oregon, home against USC. They play UCLA, Oregon State, Washington State, Utah. The Pac-12 in its final season, since all these teams are leaving, is absolutely stacked. Realistically, like, how do you think Colorado does stack up in the Pac-12? Because there are, I think, 4 or 5 of these teams that they're going to have to play that are ranked. And I mean, I think everyone has that USC game already scheduled on their calendar.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at this schedule after the game and I was like wondering, what is the ceiling? And like you said, it does get tough, but I think this is a team that's going to be able to score on anyone. And I think, you see him, I can see him winning this Nebraska game. Colorado State should be a win. Then you've got Oregon and USC. I mean, that's going to be when we really get to see what this team is made of.
Yeah.
But then after that, it's like, you've got some games. I'm looking at maybe 6 or 7 wins in a bowl appearance for this team would be my projection, maybe more like 8. Maybe they can knock off a USC or an Oregon. That would be pretty electric. But I think I'm really excited for this team as they're going to the Big 12, right?
Yeah, Big 12, yeah.
Big 12. So I think that's going to be exciting for them over the next couple of years as they transition there. I really can't wait. I think this is going to be a good building year, better than everyone expected. And then, in the next couple of years, we'll really start to see this team ascend, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I saw something saying, about Deion's contract and how like the AD was saying how he couldn't pay for it at the time. And like now it's just like, I mean, it's all like even this one game, I think just changes the entirety of the program. Like I can already imagine just recruits watching this game or just people that, 4 stars, 5 stars watching this and being like, I want to be a part of this culture. Like it looks like these guys are having the most fun in the world. They've got the nation watching them. They're getting talked about left and right. I mean, Travis Hunter, Shadur Sanders, like those guys are the talk of the town in terms of all sports media and everything. Like it seems like the place to be. And I think even if they do, I think, the hype is going to get out of proportion now to where, like you said, like this team realistically probably going to fall in the 6 to 8 win range would be, my prediction as well. But even with that, I think people are just going to want to be part of this culture and go where Deion goes. And I think we're going to see more, players like Travis Hunter, who even if Deion, let's say he gets an even bigger offer in a Power 5 school and gets a, who knows what kind of job, but a team that's, regularly in the college football playoff hunt and he goes there. Like, I think we're just going to see a bunch of players just start to follow Deion and want to be with Deion. So yeah, I agree though with you going back to kind of the year end thing. Like, I think 7 or 8 wins is realistic. This team's probably not going to be, they're not going to go undefeated. Like their defense, I think is a little too shaky for that. But if somehow this team, they win the next 2 games, and if somehow they beat Oregon and USC, which is an extremely tall task, but if they're somehow 5-0 through that week, the hype for this team is going to be like an all-time college hype. I can't even imagine. I hope it happens. I want to watch it. I'm rooting for the Bucs. But yeah, I agree. Like 6 to 8 wins. I'd probably 7 or 8, I feel like is realistic. But, it's all going to come down. This offense, I think, can compete with anyone, like you said. And they're going to go as Shadur and Travis Hunter go at the end of the day.
Yep.
All right, moving away from the Buffs. We're going to go talk about a game that happened last night, LSU versus Florida State. Really I believe this was the only ranked on ranked matchup in the entirety of week 1. And LSU, after all the talk, Brian Kelly said, on an interview on the radio or whatever, he said, we're going to beat the shit out of this team. And second half was not too kind to them. Florida State wins this one 45-24. Jordan Travis, 342 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 rushing. Incredible game for him. Florida State, I feel like we've heard about Florida State. Obviously, the program has kind of been, in a rougher spot compared to maybe the heyday in the mid-2010s. But a big win for them. I know you were watching this game, Devin. So your thoughts on kind of the state of both these teams and how big a win this is for Florida State?
Yeah, I really liked how Florida State looked. I mean, they were one of these college football teams that said we want to look like a pro offense, and Mike Norvell, I believe, is calling plays. If not, he's sort of overseeing this offense as the head coach. You've got Jordan Travis, who really showed some good, playmaking instincts, some good accuracy, some athleticism. I really like what I saw from him last night. And then you had these 2 kind of stud receivers in Johnny Wilson, number 14, who's 6'7", I believe. He's an absolute stud. And then I'm forgetting his name, number 4. He had 3 or 4 total touchdowns. Keon Coleman, the transfer. He was completely dominant. Big win for Florida State to sort of get back on the map. I mean, whenever you see these, a top ranked matchup like this early in the year, you're kind of wondering, is one of these teams, not going to be what we think? Is one of these teams actually a contender for the national championship? And, it's really early in the year, but I like what I saw from Florida State last night. And, in a weaker ACC, I could really see them, almost running the table with Clemson as the only clear, ranked opponent that's, seen as a playoff contender in their way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, like this Florida State team, this was, the game they were circling. They knew they had to win this. And now all of a sudden you look at the schedule and, in I believe 2-3 weeks, they're going to go to Clemson. If they win that game, then the rest of their schedule is like they should be favored in every single game and potentially be able to run through this ACC. So huge win for them, a huge win for the program. I mean, Jordan Travis, this kid is he's a stud. He's we've seen it last year. He played well last year. And, really big for them. And for LSU, a team that played really well last year. They had those big wins. I believe they had a big win against Alabama last year. So, a program that obviously, after moving on from Coach O, looking to kind of find their footing and was excited to have a big year, ranked number 5 and a brutal loss. I mean, this just kind of ruins their plans. And especially in the SEC, losing week 1 is no fun. I mean, this team, it's not going to get any easier for them. Arkansas, they got on the schedule, a good team, but they have Alabama later in the season. They don't have to play Georgia, which is lucky for them. But LSU, I didn't really watch this game, so I don't got too much more to say. I'm going to leave the analysis to Devin, but big for Florida State, like you said, and maybe they'll be able to get back to college football playoff. We'll see. It's going to be very interesting for sure. All right. One more game I really quickly want to touch on. Obviously, a lot of these games, the highly ranked teams blowing out these other teams, but one team that kind of struggled was Ohio State. They only won 23-3 against Indiana. Defensively, it was domination, but in terms of offensively, which usually a strong suit as we've seen these last few years for Ohio State, Cal McCord did not have a good game. 239 yards passing, 1 interception, no touchdowns. And this team is stacked offensively. You've got Marvin Harrison, who's a consensus top 5 pick right now. Emeka Ibuka, another first rounder. Cade Stover's a great tight end. So really disappointing game, I think, for Ohio State. How worried are you about this Buckeyes team? And do you think Kyle McCord, can turn it on, or do you think this team might have to look elsewhere on their roster for their quarterback?
I think that's where the your first question is going to be answered by your second question. I would say you're going to see kind of who Kyle is at this point in his career. We're going to see how this offense, I'm not going to say he has no excuses as a true freshman starting for Ohio State, because that's a tough spot to be in. But at the same time, he's got, like you said, 2 first-round receivers, a potential first-round tight end, a great offensive line, and a play caller that has, gotten 2 QBs drafted in the first round. Obviously they have their own talent and whatnot, but we've seen this offense be very successful in the past. So I think that question is really going to come down to that quarterback position. And we're going to see, what Ryan Day, he's never really had this type of controversy, not even a controversy. There's just one sort of, tough game on offense, but we've never seen the quarterback, kind of come into question with him as the coach here. So it's going to be interesting to see, whether McCord's able to pick it up and this offense really gets going. This Indiana defense has been tough in the past, so it wouldn't surprise me at all if that happens and they end up figuring it out.
Yeah, I think it's Buckeye fans I don't think are too happy. I think they're a little concerned, but they've got the next 2 weeks. They've got some, I'm looking at the schedule, Youngstown State Penguins and the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. Like, it's almost like, how do they even find these schools to play against? Yeah. Those are some real, they dug deep to get those matchups. But so yeah, I think those are the games. But then, they do go to Notre Dame. They've got Penn State on the schedule, and obviously a game against Michigan at the end of the season at Michigan. And that is, I think that's almost more important than winning a national championship at this point, is beating Michigan for this team. So, yeah, like you said, like Kyle McCord, he's going to have time to figure it out. Obviously, has been on this roster. He I believe is a junior now, but he just hasn't had the ability to play. So, his first real chance to start a game. And they got the win at the end of the day. They won by 20 points, but, for an Ohio State team ranked number 3, you expect them to, blow out these teams by 40 points sometimes. But I just think this team's got to do what they can to get Marvin Harrison involved. I mean, he had 2 catches for 18 yards. That should never happen, especially against Indiana. I mean, that's just not acceptable. So get Marvin Harrison the ball. I think things will go better. But yeah, I mean, concern for the Buckeyes a little bit. I think, especially looking at that Michigan game when they've got a guy like JJ McCarthy, who's been that guy now for a few years and has proven he can play at the highest level. I think they are at a disadvantage at the quarterback position compared to a team like Michigan. So will be interesting to see how McCord kind of progresses throughout the year. If they do end up switching quarterbacks at some point, that'd be, very interesting. But I think it's going to be McCord's team for now until further notice. So we'll see what happens with the Buckeyes and, college football. Best time of the year. Once college football starts, that, we're just going to be watching football for, the next few months. So great week one. Anything else you want to say? You want to jump to the NFL?
No, I'm just happy we're back, man. That's all I can say.
Yeah, 100%. So moving right along to the NFL, we are going to do our week one predictions today. But real quick, we're going to predict our division winners for the NFC. We'll start off with your Philadelphia Eagles. I think we know who you're picking, Devin. So talk to me about why the Eagles are going to be winning the NFC East this year.
Yeah, man, I'm really excited. I've seen my Eagles go to a Super Bowl in my life and kind of do everything wrong after that to mess it up. And I'm hoping that we learned this time. We lost, and we're gonna do everything right this time, is my hope. So we've drafted Jalen Carter. I'm gonna not talk in the we. I'm sorry about that.
You can go. It's casual podcast. This isn't a broadcast class.
This is an Eagles team that drafted Jalen Carter. They lost CJ Gardner-Johnson in the offseason, lost TJ Edwards in the offseason, lost Kaiser White in the offseason, was extremely healthy last year. So there are a lot of signs that kind of point to some regression for this team. However, the reason I'm very confident picking this team in a tough division is going to come down to coaching, quarterback, and front office. And those are the three main things you really talk about, when it comes to continuity as a football team. And the Eagles are, really top class at, every spot, it seems, whereas every team in the NFC East has some more question marks there. And you really, you look at this offense, it's loaded between the two, true wide receiver ones, in my opinion. I think you really have a good pass catching tight end and a great blocking tight end. And Goddard, you have potentially the best offensive line in the league, despite it being a bit older. And you have a defense that still has a great secondary, still has a ton of pass rush. So I think it's going to be interesting to see this sort of next year and see how the Eagles can build off of last year and hopefully, keep winning. I'm hoping that, this isn't a disaster where we see that, Hurts was some type of a fluke or we see any type of injury, as we've often seen happen to teams that lose in the Super Bowl. But I hope this is much more like a Bengals team that we see, seeming to stick around for years to come as a contender.
Yeah, I expect this team to be more like the Bengals. I'm going to also have them as my division winner. I think this team, them and the 49ers, I think once again are the two teams to beat in this NFC. The Eagles, I mean, like you said, they're just stacked everywhere. I mean, their offensive line, the best in the NFL. Jalen Hurts really, had an incredible MVP. If he doesn't get hurt, he's probably the MVP last season. So incredible year for him. Like you said, though, I think there are some people who, he's still not considered in that tier of guys like a Mahomes, a Burrow, Josh Allen. I think people are still putting in that tier. I have, I'd say Mahomes and Burrow are on their own tier, and then kind of Hurts is in that next tier. But I think he really has an opportunity if he goes out, balls out once again, to kind of jump to that top tier of quarterbacks. He is a dual threat. We've seen it, for years now with him in the league. And yeah, the Eagles team, like you said, like they lost some guys on defense, but then they go out and draft Jalen Carter. They draft Nolan Smith, like all these guys. It's pretty crazy. So I think the Eagles will easily is tough because I think the Cowboys will be good, but I don't think it's ever going to be really a question of if the Eagles will, not win this division. I think they'll be a team that goes out and wins, 13 plus games this season once again. All right, moving on. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I forgot to bring this up about Jordan Travis. I did see a lot of Hurts in his game. Did see a lot of that sort of poise, but then he's not afraid to take off at the right time. So I am very high on Travis from what I saw just in 1 week.
Yeah. All right, moving on. NFC North, biggest storyline it feels like in this division. the departure of Aaron Rodgers. So NFC North fans can rejoice, I guess, as he has tortured them for so long. Minnesota, coming off winning that division, obviously they've got Jettis. The Lions, a really promising team. The Bears are on the up. This is a really exciting division, honestly. It feels like anyone's game. So who are you picking to win this?
Yeah, this is probably the first division we've had that I'm like, I really don't know, going into thinking about it where I'm going, but I'm gonna go with a bit of a shocker here. I think I'm gonna go with the Packers.
Wow.
So I think, so I think this is a really, really talented defense in Green Bay that's kind of been held back by coaching a little bit. And, Joe Barry, the defensive coordinator, has been there for about 4 years, something like that. And he's been a fan of the more conservative, zone heavy system. And I just don't think that's necessarily what fits this defense best. So I think, to make a long story short, I think in a make or break year, I think there's going to be a big improvement for this defense. And I really do think that Love, with 3 years under his belt and, kind of a young receiving core, will get this offense into a good place. I do think this is one of the weaker divisions, or at least lower win totals for the winner. So I really don't see any team winning this division by 2 or 3 games or more than that, really. So I could see it being the Packers. I could see it being the Lions. The other two I'm not quite as sold on as division teams, just because both their defenses really concern me. But I could see it being either of these two, and I see a very competitive, fun NFC North here.
This is a tough division. I mean, the Packers pick's interesting. I want to kind of ride the Lions wave, but I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings once again. I think, this team did lose some pieces. They lost Dalvin Cook. I believe they lost Eric Kendricks. They lost Darius Smith. So they did lose a lot of key guys. But I think at the end of this day, I think this offense is going to be able to carry this team. I think Justin Jefferson, as we saw last season, this guy is just so special. And I think Jordan Addison's going to have a huge year. KJ Osborne, TJ Hawkinson. I think this offense is still going to be really good, and it's going to be good enough to the point where, this team will find a way to win the division. Last year, obviously, this team was historic in one possession games. I forget the exact record, but it feels like they almost never lost. I think they were like 8-1 or 9, maybe 8-0, something crazy. I mean, it was bonkers.
I think they were undefeated somehow.
Yeah. Somehow, some way. So that's obviously gonna, I think all the analytics would point to a regression there, which I agree. But I think this team will figure out a way to win some games, and I think, I just trust Kirk Cousins. I think he is the best quarterback in this division currently. I think between him and Jared Goff, those are the top 2 guys. We just haven't really seen enough from Jordan Love, and enough in the passing game from Fields for either of those guys to be considered that. So I think Kirk's the best quarterback in this division. And I think you've got the best playmaker in the division. I think combined, they're going to find a way to win the division. So I'm going to go with the Vikings.
Absolutely could see that. I'm still scared of this offense week 2 when my Eagles face them.
I think you guys always blow them out, though, so I wouldn't be too worried about him. I feel like it'll be like 38-0 or whatever.
I'm hoping so.
All right, moving on. NFC South. A bit of a boring division, I think you could say. You've got a lot of teams and interesting thoughts. The Saints are kind of going for it as they always do, just bringing in Derek Carr, Baker and the Bucs, and then you've got I'm honestly blanking. You've got the Panthers and then the Falcons. So
Yeah.
2 teams with some younger quarterbacks. What are you thinking with this one?
Yeah, so I was really between the Panthers and the Falcons, which feels weird in my head, and I didn't want to go with the rookie quarterback just because of how rare that really seems to be, that we see a rookie quarterback kind of lead a team to a division title. So I'm gonna go with the Falcons here. I'm really a big fan of this offensive playmaking group. I think there's almost no way that Bijan doesn't have a great season behind this offensive line, as long as they are willing to use him over Tyler Algier, which I think everyone is hoping for. But there's a very talented offense in terms of playmakers. I think Desmond Ridder is well set up to have, sort of a Tannehill type season like we've seen Arthur Smith have his quarterbacks do in the past. And I think this is a defense that got a lot better. It's not necessarily special. I think you're still really looking for a game changer off the edge. Whether, their 2nd round pick or Arnold Ebiketie can become that is up in the air still. But I think there's some, massive improvements between, Calais Campbell, David Onyemata they brought in, and then obviously the big one being Jesse Bates at safety. So really helping this defense add some talent. So I'm just, I'm confident that this can be an NFL average to slightly below average defense and an offense that can really run the ball, and Ritter starts to get better as the season goes along. So again, I don't see this being like a 12-win team that wins the division going away, but I do see this being maybe an 8 to 10 win team that wins a tight division.
Yeah, a lot of young talent on the Falcons, like you said. I'm going to go with the Saints. I just think they have too much. I just think the Saints right now, I don't think they're very good, but I just think that they are the best of the worst. I think, Derek Carr, he gets a lot of hate, but I think, he's a middle of the pack NFL quarterback, which I think in this division is the best and is good enough to win it. You've got playmakers on the offense. I think Chris Olave is going to have a huge year. Who knows what you're going to get out of Michael Thomas? If you get anything, that's a plus. They've got a really strong running back room. You bring in Jamal Williams. Kamara obviously is going to be suspended for a few games, but he's still there. So I think offensively, this team should do really well. And on the flip side of the ball, you've got guys like Marshawn Lattimore still there, Cam Johnson, Mario Davis. So they still have kind of those key defensive guys. They are getting a little bit older on that side of the ball, so I would like to see them, bring in some guys. But they do have guys that I like. Pete Werner, kind of one of those young players from Ohio State that, I think was a rookie last year, played some pretty good ball for them. So I think this team, they've got a pretty easy schedule. I mean, I'm looking at it right now. Out of division, you've got, all of these teams will play the AFC South, which is, the worst division in the AFC. And then, the Saints have the Rams on the schedule, which I think is a very winnable game. So there's just games that I think, looking at it, I think this team will find a way to win 9 games or so, kind of around that range. And I think that's good enough to win this division. I don't think, like you said, the Panthers, it's going to be interesting to see how Bryce Young does. The Falcons should be, Falcons won 6-7 games last year, and I think they're only going to be better this year. So I think it's going to be close. I think it'll probably be decided by a game, maybe even that Week 18 game, Falcons Saints. I think that honestly could be for the division. So I'm going to go Saints. That one is at home, so I'm going to go Saints win the division Week 18 in the Superdome.
Fair enough, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Last division, NFC West. The defending champ, or not defending champs, but champs 2 years ago, probably now projected to finish last, the Rams in this division. You got the Niners. Seahawks are a fun team. It's a pretty strong division. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not going to be too fun here. I'm going to go with the 49ers. I think this is a team that's, just stacked everywhere except for quarterback, where they seem to figure it out no matter who's there, unless it's Trey Lance. Unless it's the guy you traded 3 first-round picks for, they'll be fine. But
yeah, send him to the bench.
But besides that, before I get on my tangent of the day, you've got a great left tackle in Trent Williams, a great tight end, and George Kittle, great receiving room, great defense. It seems like the Bosa situation should get figured out. So this is just a regular season wins machine in my eyes. This never does seem to happen in the NFL, but I really could see the next, 2 to 3 NFC championships being Eagles, Niners, just because of these teams really do seem to be just more, loaded and well coached than everyone else in this conference. So I'm really, unfortunately, high on the 49ers, as much as I wish I could say regression is coming. You look at the Seahawks, I think like you said, is a fun team. Obviously everyone kind of roots for Geno and is hoping that, this is more than just a 1-year story. And I do think that is true. You added JSN to an already loaded group of weapons. This defense is only getting better, although it's probably not quite Super Bowl ready yet. So I wouldn't say this is quite a Super Bowl team, but probably like a playoff contending team that could win a game or two. And then it gets a lot sadder after that. You look at the Cardinals, who are, the betting favorite for the number 1 pick here. And I think they're going to eke out a few wins randomly. I don't think they end up going 1-16 or anything, but I think this is a really bad team, to be honest. I don't even know. There's nothing really to look forward to because Kyler Murray might be getting traded. So
it's like Josh Dobbs at quarterback.
Yeah. So yeah, Kyler Murray's hurt, and then once he comes back, he's going to be under some tanking, win and keep the job type situation. So that's going to be interesting to see. And then the Rams, wow, what a fall off they've had. this team is probably, when you look at their like 8th to 20th best players, most of these guys, you're wondering if they're even an established starter. And this is going to have to be Sean McVay's pièce de résistance if he wants to to make the playoffs this year, because this would just have to be an absolute masterclass in coaching this year, because I don't see the talent outside of Cup, Donald, and Stafford.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the 49ers. I mean, we'll kind of touch on all these teams when we talk week one, but yeah, the 49ers, this roster is just loaded, like you said. Like, outside of quarterback, it feels like if this team had a like star quarterback, like I think they would like be unstoppable. Like I think their roster is that good. You've got star after star after star on both sides of the ball, and you just have every year it seems like guys emerge. You had last year, I'm gonna botch his name, the safety. Maybe you know how to pronounce it.
Talanoa Hufanga is my best
Yeah,
guess,
that's a
but
good
that could
guess.
be wrong.
That sounds, I think the viewers can get an idea of who we're talking to, but he emerged as a stud last year. Obviously Brock Purdy. So it feels like this team just so well coached. They've always got guys kind of, and they're churning out. I mean, look at the coaching staff. You got, each year it feels like the defensive coordinators being hired. Robert Saleh, obviously a few years ago, became the head coach of the Jets. And, this offseason, DeMeco Ryans left to become the head coach of the Texans. So they will have a new defensive coordinator. Couldn't tell you his name right now, if I'm being honest, but it doesn't seem to matter in San Francisco. This team should win a lot of football games this year. And like you said, I predict honestly that we're going to see 49ers Eagles again. I just don't really see how we'll see it at some point in the playoffs. I think maybe somehow another team squeaks out more wins due to injury or something, but I feel like there's almost no way that, barring severe injury, God forbid, that, we don't see Eagles 49ers in the playoffs at some point.
Yeah. And get your popcorn ready, folks.
Yeah, absolutely. Once the 49ers, hopefully they actually have a quarterback to put on the field this year for the game to make it a little more interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that was a fun game as an Eagles fan, but I don't think anyone else was enjoying the McCaffrey emergency quarterback game either.
Well, they changed the rules for that specific because of that game. So, now teams can carry, I believe, up to 3 quarterbacks on the roster. So hopefully we never see anything like that again. But yeah, that'll do it for our NFC predictions. So our division winners, mostly similar. I think we probably had like 2 or 3 differences in there out of all of them across the NFL. But moving along to week one, it's finally here. It's crazy to say. I mean, it's just like, it's been a while. Like the NFL offseason is definitely, when you're going February to early September, you feel it, but amazing to be back. And what a game we're being treated to Thursday night on NBC. Lions and Chiefs. Defending champs, Super Bowl champs, the Chiefs. It looks like Chris Jones, that whole contract situation is crazy. He's been holding out all camp, has been fined up to $1 million, or in more than $1 million. Still doesn't have a contract. Andy Reid's like, I don't know when he's showing up. They thought they would have it done. It's not done. So he's not going to be playing this game, barring there's no way he's going to be playing this game. I mean, he hasn't, even if they sign the deal in one minute from now, he hasn't. Who knows what kind of shape this guy's in. Hopefully good for the Chiefs' sake. But yeah, a mess there. But the Chiefs, returning a lot of guys. Juju's gone. And then on the flip side, the Lions, fun young team, kind of got, it feels like the world on their back. Everyone wants to see the Lions win. So who do you got first game of the season, Chiefs or Lions?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the defending champs here in the Chiefs. From a betting perspective, you've got the Chiefs at around 6.5-point favorites. I like that line. I think that's pretty fair. If you want to tell me that the Lions are going to cover that, or if that the Chiefs are going to, be too well prepared, I'll hear you out. So I think we're getting probably around a 1-possession game. Probably a game that, the Chiefs come out and the Lions can't really stop them. But the Lions are going to probably be able to score as well. So this should be a fun game. I just think the Chiefs are just a bit too well prepared, and they've got the Mahomes on their side of the field, and the Lions do not. So I'm going to take the Chiefs. I like the over in this game. Just on another betting note, just because I think there's going to be a lot of points, and the Chiefs defense is usually really bad at the beginning of the year. So that'll be my outlook for this game.
Yeah, I agree. I think we could be seeing, I don't know. I feel like the Lions played a lot of, high scoring games, mostly at home, but I feel like this is a shootout potential kind of game with, like we just talked about, Chris Jones isn't going to be playing. So outside of him, really, this Chiefs defense isn't very good. So I think both of these teams are going to be scoring frequently. I'm also going to pick the Chiefs. I just don't think you can pick against Patty Mahomes ever. But I am very interested to see just offensively what it looks like at wide receiver for this team. Kadarius Toney, it seems like he's going to play, but I mean, I saw I think it was like an Adam Schefter post on Instagram or something about, Kadarius Toney expected to be active, and in the comments, it's just like we've all seen this. Like he's going to play one quarter and miss the next 4 weeks. So it's like who knows what's going to happen with that guy. But other than him, you got Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Sky Moore. But then it's like we get into kind of an interesting area where it's like who knows who's going to be on the field. You got to mix it up, and Andy Reid tends to. So I'm excited to see who kind of emerges at wide receiver for this team. I am a little worried about who's going to get the ball, obviously outside of Kelsey. So it's going to be fun to see, but I am going to pick the Chiefs. I just think we've seen too much now that, it doesn't really matter who's on the field. Mahomes is going to find a way to get the right guy the ball and, just finds a way to win. I mean, he is just a winner, especially at Arrowhead opening night. Like he's just, he's going to be fired up, and he's just a different breed. So I'm going to go Chiefs. Excited to watch the Lions though. And, especially, Jahmyr Gibbs, they picked him at number 12. You heard their offensive coordinator come out and say they're going to use him in unthinkable ways this week. So I'm excited to see kind of what that looks like. But yeah, I'm going to go Chiefs as well. Moving on to Sunday afternoon slate. Titans Saints is going to be the first game at New Orleans. Ryan Tannehill still the quarterback in Tennessee, even though they've got some young guys, Malik Willis and Will Levis on the roster. Derrick Henry still doing his thing. Who do you got in this game?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Titans. This is a tough place to play in New Orleans. This is gonna be a fired up crowd. Derek Carr's first game. And I think this is just gonna be, sort of a battle of, who's gonna enforce their will the most between Derrick Henry running the ball down the Saints' throat and this Saints run defense. I mean, who's gonna really win that battle to me is gonna be the winner of this game. And I think I just don't, quite see whether it's, a big run from Henry or a play action pass to a Burks or a Hopkins. I just think the Titans pulled this one out in a close one. Just a little bit more juice on offense, in my opinion, a little bit better coached on defense.
Yeah. I mean, it's a tough one for me. It's kind of a 50-50 game. I feel like this just has the feel of like a Titans come out week 1, fired up, ready to go. Mike Vrabel. But I'm going to go with the Saints. I did just pick them to win the division. I think, Derek Carr, after last season, pretty disappointing. I think he's going to be, looking to make a statement week 1 and kind of show, he is worth the contract he got. He still can be a solid quarterback in this league. We're going to see the return of Michael Thomas. He only played like 3 games, I think he appeared in last year. Chris Olave, like I mentioned earlier. And yeah, I don't know. I'm just not sold on the Titans right now. I think this offensive line, they did draft Skronsky, but other than that, this O-line, they lost some guys. Ben Jones not there anymore. So I think this is a weaker O-line. I'm not saying, I think Derrick Henry always finds a way to make things happen and get his 100 yards, but I think it is going to be a little tougher for him. And, Ryan Tannehill at this point, like, I don't know. I just think his heyday's past. And I think, at some point this season, we'll see. I think we should see Will Levis at some point. I think we kind of already got an idea of what Malik Willis is just based on how he played last year. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Saints. I just think, Derek Carr at this point, I'm going to take him over Tannehill. And yeah, I'm going to go Saints.
Fair enough. And I'm excited to see Levis get in when he gets a chance. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and talk about another guy with some stuff to prove, projected to go as high as number, 2, 3, 4 almost. And yeah, he fell all the way in the second round. Next game, Baker Mayfield's Tampa Bay Buccaneers head into Minnesota. I'm super interested to see how this goes. I mean, I feel like Baker at this point, we've seen him now with a few different teams, but he did play well with the Rams at the end of the year. He's going to have Mike Evans, Chris Godwin as weapons. Arguably, I don't even think arguably, probably the best receiving core he's ever had in his entire NFL career. So, obviously, I think Minnesota is probably heavily favored here. But what are your thoughts? Do you think Baker could pull off an upset, or you think Jettis is going to be going off?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be an interesting game. I'm excited to watch Baker, man. I've always been rooting for him just just because of his personality, and this is really his last chance as a starter. We probably think. So I'm excited to watch that, just see how he comes out. But from a game perspective, you're probably looking at 7 to 8 point spread here, depending on what site you're looking at, and I think that's pretty fair. I don't think the Bucs have an offer to stop this defense, this Vikings offense. I apologize for misspeaking, but everyone knows what I'm saying. So I just think it's gonna be this Bucs defense tough for them to score, even though the Vikings aren't necessarily the most talented defense, but I think they're gonna be well coached enough to maybe trick Baker Mayfield into some dumb throws, and I think this is a pretty easy win for the Vikings.
Yeah, I'm excited to see, like you said, Baker. It feels like, like you said, it's kind of it for him. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Vikings, like you said. I'm sorry, I'm also all over the place. I mean, I'm just talking out loud. Thinking out loud, Jesus. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Vikings. Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson. I think this offense, like you said, it's just we've seen it. We've seen it with Kevin O'Connell. He finds the ball. He finds ways to get his playmakers the ball, and I think we're going to see another big Week 1 win from the Vikings, who they're going to need it. Like we said, NFC North this year probably going to be highly competitive. So need to take care of business at home against a team that with Baker at quarterback at this point in his career, probably a team that's not going to be doing too well this season. Next up, rough game, but at a sold out FedEx Field, Cardinals Commanders. Sam Howell now the quarterback in Washington. That team has seen a lot of quarterbacks recently. Taylor Heineke was there. All sorts of guys, obviously back in the day, Kirk Cousins, but this team just hasn't kind of found, they've got a good core, but it just feels like they haven't taken that next step. Maybe they will under Sam Howell. I do think this is going to be a win for them. I think the Cardinals, like we mentioned earlier, Josh Dobbs at quarterback, wide receiver room, is honestly not terrible. Hollywood Brown and Rondell Moore, but, this defense is going to be bad. They basically traded away, all the talent they had. It feels like they trading away Josh James, Isaiah Simmons. So I think there are going to be guys who I think sometimes when you have such a bad team that it almost, does get you a few wins because you got guys who are fired up and, trying to make it in the NFL and keep their careers alive. But I just don't think, I think the Commanders are going to be a solid team. I think they'll be an 8-9 win team, and I think they will take care of business at home. Terry McLaurin might not play though. Obviously, we're still, a bit of a ways away from that game happening, but he seems like he's dealing with some toe injury, so that would be big if he misses. But I still think Commanders pull through no matter what.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're only looking at a Commanders loss here if some combination of McLaurin doesn't play or Howell has a really tough game. So you probably need one of those two things to happen if you're looking at a Cardinals win here. This is just a tough matchup for the Cardinals because they don't have their quarterback yet, and they are going up against one of the more talented defenses in the league. So I could see this being a really, really tough week for them to move the ball. So I'm going to go with the Commanders pretty easily here.
Yep. Moving along, 49ers, Steelers. Steelers are interesting young team. Kenny Pickett in year 2. You got George Pickens there as well. I think a lot of people think the Steelers team is going to be better than projected. 49ers, obviously, like we mentioned, we both got them winning the NFC West. So do you see the Steelers upsetting, or you think 49ers will take care of business?
I could see this being, a game that goes either way, but I think I'd lean towards the 49ers here. This is going to be a low scoring game. Two of the better defenses, two of the best edge rushers in the game, arguably the best too. And two of the better coach defenses. So I think you're looking at a game probably high teens, low 20s, closer game coming down to, either like a field goal or, someone gets a touchdown drive or a late interception. So I'll lean towards the Niners here, but I could definitely see it being a Steelers win.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Niners. I think they're just too good at this point. Brock Purdy obviously is coming off that elbow injury, so it's going to be interesting to see how he is week 1. But regardless, you've got Christian McCaffrey, like we've mentioned. I mean, they've got Deebo Samuel, they've got George Kittle, they've got all these playmakers that make Purdy's job so much easier. And I think the Steelers are such an interesting team. Like if Kenny Pickett does take a leap, I think this team is going to be really good because I think their defense is as good as any defense in the NFL. And they have pieces on the offensive side. You got Deontay Johnson, You've got George Pickens, like we said. Pat Fryermuth is there. They're going to have a strong running game. The O-line's, the best it's probably been in the last 5 years. So I think the Steelers, it's all on Kenny Pickett. I think if Kenny Pickett is kind of more the same as he was last year, doesn't necessarily take that leap, this team's going to be 7 to 8 wins. If he takes a leap, I think we're talking double-digit wins for the Steelers. But I think week one, I don't think we should expect to see, a huge leap from Kenny Pickett. That's more kind of a across the season type thing. So yeah, I'm going to go Niners, like I said.
Absolutely.
I don't know what the line is, but any gambling idea on that game? What you would like over? I mean, you mentioned low scoring, so maybe the under in this one.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's going to be a lower over under. I think this is actually going to be a really tough matchup for Deontay Johnson, weirdly enough. So I could see the under on his yards being a good value here, just because I don't love the look of him against a bunch of zone coverage. He's more of a man separator type, and I just really like how this Niners defense matches up with Tarvarius Ward potentially following him or whatever they end up decide to do. I think this could be a tough week for him.
Yeah. There you have it from the gambling expert of Outside the Arena, Devin. He is a successful, he finds a way to make I'd listen. If I'm the viewers, I'd be listening to these advice right now. Moving on to I think the best 1:00 game, Bengals Browns, big NFC North rivalry. Deshaun Watson in year 2 of that mega contract with the team. Obviously, Joe Burrow, it looks like he's going to play. So we'll make these predictions, assuming that Burrow is playing. Bengals Browns in Cleveland. But you think Bengals, or what are you thinking?
I'm actually gonna go Browns here, man.
Wow.
I can't say I'll be rooting for them, but I can say it's a really talented team. I don't even dislike anyone but the quarterback, but
yeah,
he's a big one. So I think this is a really talented.
There's a lot of
team.
baggage for sure.
A lot of baggage, yeah. This is a really talented team, though. We've seen the Bengals come out kind of flat week 1 last year. We're not sure about Burrow's health, and this isn't necessarily a make or break game for the Bengals the way it is for the Browns. We've seen the Browns kind of just broke their streak of never really winning on week 1. So we always seem ready to kind of clown the Browns as soon as anything goes wrong. So I'm hoping they're gonna kind of come out, see this as a huge game for them, and come out with a bigger chip on their shoulder. Maybe Chubb has a big game. Could see this being a close one for sure, but I'll lead towards the Browns.
Yeah, Cleveland's played Cincinnati pretty well actually in the last year. It's probably as good as any team in the NFL has. I am going to go with the Bengals, though. I think Denzel Ward right now, his status is up in the air. He's going through Denzel Ward. We talk about Tua a lot with the concussions, but Denzel Ward's on his fourth or fifth concussion, which is not good at all. So hopefully, he takes his time and gets to 100%. Doesn't we don't want to see especially after last year, these guys with these concussions rush into anything. So I'm honestly going to assume that he isn't playing week 1. And I think that's going to be huge because then it's, you got Greg Newsome, who I think is a solid corner, but, then you're looking at, along the depth chart, Cam Mitchell, a draft pick from Northwestern would probably have to see some significant time against these Bengals receivers of Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. I mean, that's not a fun matchup, especially if Denzel Ward's not playing. And I think Joe Burrow, I think, I think he'll be fine. I mean, if they're putting him out there, I think, he's going to be close to 100%. I don't think they're going to risk anything. Like you said, it's kind of a, meaningless game for them. Not a meaningless game, but they're going to be good enough that they're going to be able to afford one loss week 1. But I'm assuming if they put him out there that he's good enough to be the Joe Burrow that we love and know. So I'm going to go with the Bengals. I think also, Deshaun Watson, I'm honestly not totally sold on him yet. I still need to see more from him to believe that, he can be that guy of old, or at least anything close to it. And, week 1, I think he's probably going to have some jitters and, I don't know. It's the Browns. I mean, I'm going to go with the Bengals. Enough said.
Fair enough.
Moving on to, we just talked about these two teams, NFC South matchup, Panthers, Falcons, really exciting matchup. Bryce Young versus Bijan Robinson, both of their first career games. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, this should be a fun one. These were my two kind of contenders to win the NFC South in a sense, although the Saints stuff, they could be up there as well. But, this is going to be an interesting matchup. Like you said, the debut of Bryce Young, the debut of Bijan Robinson, sort of the first time we see Ritter as the full-time starter here. the debut of Jesse Bates. We get the debut of
Yeah.
Frank Reich. So this is a big first game, even outside of what happens, just in terms of there's going to be a lot of new people, starting their new roles here. So should be an interesting one. I'm going to lean towards the Falcons, like I said, with the division pick. I just think this is probably the best roster in the NFC South, and I'm confident in this coaching staff to get Ritter to where he needs to be. I think they pull this one out.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Falcons too. I think the Panthers right now they're dealing with some injuries at wide receiver, so we're gonna see. I think Adam Thielen's gonna be there, but outside of that, it's like Jonathan Mingo and a bunch of guys who haven't really played much in the NFL. So I think Bryce Young, this Falcons secondary, I think is actually gonna be pretty good. You've obviously got AJ Terrell, Jesse Bates, like you said, making his debut. So I don't think it's gonna be the easiest week one for Bryce Young, but at the end of the day, this Falcons defense isn't anything too terrifying. So I think he'll still show his flashes, but I think, his receiving core are going to be pretty thin. And that Falcons offense, I think, is going to be super fun to watch. They're going to run the heck out of that ball with Bijan. And I think Tyler Algier, like you kind of mentioned earlier in the podcast, I think he's going to have still a big role. I mean, he ran for 1,000 yards last season, really promising rookie last year for them. And I would not expect to, for him to just not play at all. I think, seeing Arthur Smith, his history of how he likes to pound the rock, I think we're going to see both these guys get, I think Bijan will be the one who carries the load and gets, 20 plus carries, but I expect Algier to be in the 10 plus carry range every single game. I think, this Falcons team, they're going to win their games through the run. And, definitely I hope to see a little more Kyle Pitts this year than we've seen. I feel like, with all the hype he had coming out of college, I feel like it's been underwhelming, and it's not even necessarily his fault. He just hasn't really had a quarterback who's been able to get him the ball. So I hope we just can kind of see him unlocked. I think that would be super fun. But yeah, I'm going to go Falcons in this one. Just Panthers dealing with some injuries, and I think the Falcons right now the better team. Moving on, Ravens Texans. This feels like the easy pick'em game of the week, probably. I'm going to go with the Ravens. CJ Stroud, first career start. Poor guy almost. I feel like this is just the classic, like 3 interceptions, or really, really struggles to move the football. His weapons are not very good, so I think we're going to see. I don't know. I feel like the Ravens always have some like week one, just like blowout to start their season. I don't know. I feel like, I don't know, maybe I'm totally wrong, but yeah, I think this is going to be a super easy win for the Ravens.
No, definitely. I think we've seen this like where they blew out the Dolphins a few years ago.
Yeah.
They seem to always come out, be ready, they've been a team that struggled with injuries, so you're going to be healthier week one. You've got a good quarterback. You're going against like a rookie quarterback, rookie head coach. So I almost see no path to victory here for the Texans. Of course, I'm going to pick them in my survival pool and watch how they lose. So we'll see how that happens. But from a football perspective here, I don't see any way the Texans really keep this very close.
Yeah. Another game that figures to probably potentially be a blowout. Jaguars at Colts. Anthony Richardson's first career start. Obviously, no Jonathan Taylor. He's on the physically unable to perform list. Fancy terminology there. Jaguars, Calvin Ridley's debut with the team. Trevor Lawrence looking to make another leap. Assuming you're going Jaguars here.
Yeah, I'm going to lead towards the Jaguars here, but you look at the spread and it's only like 5 or so points, depending on what site you're looking at. And I think that's fair because, you've seen some of the like 7 or 8 point spreads. Most of the time you have the favorite team at home, like the Commanders are at home. So I could definitely see an upset here. Just, it's been tough for the Jags to win in Indianapolis recently. And their defense isn't, I don't think quite Super Bowl ready yet. Like I said, sort of with the Seahawks, where it's getting better, but it's maybe not quite there yet. So I could see a good debut for Richardson and Steichen. So maybe a higher scoring, closer game than people are expecting, but I'd still lean Jags here.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Jags. I think this offense is gonna be really good this year. They've got some serious weapons. Ridley, Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram had a big year last year. ETN, Tank Bigsby, we're hearing a lot about, the rookie running back. And like you said, like this defense, isn't going to be the best. They don't really have too many playmakers, but you're going against a rookie quarterback who, in the preseason, is, Anthony Richardson, like we talked about last week, he's a project. Not necessarily, he's a project. I mean, he's a guy who probably shouldn't be starting right away. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. He'll get the experience, but this was never a guy who's going to come in week one and dominate. And I think, we're going to see the struggles week one. And, he doesn't really. He's got Michael Pittman. Outside of that, Alec Pierce, I guess, is all right, but he's obviously without his superstar running back, and it's going to be interesting to see how this offense does. But I'm going to go Jaguars. I think this is a pretty easy Week 1 win for them, and Trevor Lawrence, I think, could kick off what could be I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be a sneaky dark horse in the MVP conversation. I think he is going to have a huge year on this offense, and excited to watch him continue to ball out and earn a massive contract extension next offseason. All right, this one a lot of fun. Packers at Bears, first game in God knows how long, where the Bears fans aren't looking at this and trembling with fear of Aaron Rodgers, who famously said that he owns them, and rightfully so. Justin Fields, Jordan Love, fun game. You think the new look Bears offense can take it, or division champs in your eyes, Jordan Love and the Packers? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm gonna take the Packers here. I think this is a big over game. Just because I'm still a little iffy about the Packers on defense, and I'm really iffy about the Bears on defense. If we're being nice, and this is just two young quarterbacks I'm excited to watch play. I just trust the continuity of the Packers offense and the talent of their defense a little bit more here, but I could see it going either way. Like I said, excited to watch Fields play. And this could definitely be a big DJ Moore week as well. Gets a lot of zone coverage debuting for the Bears with his first quarterback, real franchise level quarterback we've seen him play with.
Yeah. I'm going to go with the Bears. I think, I'm drinking the Justin Fields Kool-Aid. I think he's going to have a breakout season. I think, we saw it with the legs last year. He's a guy who, is probably going to run for close to, if not more than 1,000 yards in a season. And I think we're going to see I think we're going to finally be able to see him unlock more as a passer. I mean, you look at his tape from Ohio State when he obviously had, guys like Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave that he was throwing the ball to. And, he was a great passer, and I don't think there's any reason to believe that he can't, have that success at the NFL level. He just hasn't had the guys. I mean, he started last year out with Darnell Mooney as his wide receiver one, and obviously they had Claypool, but their offense never really was fully healthy. So I think it's going to be a clean slate. They've obviously got, I'm forgetting his name. I believe it's Darnell Wright on the offensive line that they drafted. So hopefully the offensive line for his sake is better than it was last year. And you bring in DJ Moore, like you said. I think weapons wise, he's going to be able to air it out a little more and trust the offense. Running back is a position that I think this team is, needs to find someone for the future. Right now, I believe it's Khalil Herbert going in and starting week 1. So I think that is a position that, with the loss of David Montgomery, you're going to need to upgrade in the future. And I'm not saying this Bears team is going to go out and win the division this year. They've still got time, and obviously a lot of draft picks accumulated from that DJ Moore trade, or DJ Moore Bryce Young trade. So yeah, I'm going to go with the Bears. Though I think Justin Fields has a big week 1, and Jordan Love I think will be good, but we've only seen him for the one game against the Chiefs, so still we saw him a bit last year at the end. So we've seen him a little bit, but still haven't seen enough for me to confidently pick the Packers in this game.
Absolutely.
Moving on to your Philadelphia Eagles at New England, rematch of Super Bowl that I think is very fun to your heart, with Nick Foles winning that one, but different time. Mac Jones and Jalen Hurts, the quarterbacks. Assuming you're going with your Birds week 1.
Yeah, I'll go with my Birds. This is a similar line to the Colts one, just from a gambling perspective. So I probably, if I had to pick, I'd say the Eagles cover here, but I think there's another fair spread by the guys in Vegas. Looking at probably a lower scoring game, at least from the Eagles' perspective. I think this is a really good defense from the Patriots. I think they drafted Jesus Christ, what's his name? Christian Gonzalez, the corner from Oregon. And I think that was a big need in their secondary to get a true shutdown corner. So, that's going to help them obviously with a good group of weapons, but I just don't think they have quite the offense to win this game. So maybe a 24-27 or a 27-21, something like that, win for the Eagles.
I think the Eagles are going to win by more than that. I think they're going to win probably in double digits here. We saw it all last year. This offense is just so dominant. AJ Brown, Devonta Smith. It's just hard to guard both those guys. And obviously, I'm super excited to see the run game for this team this year and what it looks like. You bring in DeAndre Swift. You have Rashad Penny, who who knows how many games he'll make it through, but
Yeah.
and either of those guys, I guess. I mean, it could be week 3 and we're talking about, maybe they trade for JT though. I mean, that's kind of what it feels like the Eagles would just be able to muster up at this point with the success and luck they've had, it feels like. But you know, I'm excited to see kind of what the situation is. I don't know if you've heard anything of, kind of how they plan to use those guys, or especially DeAndre Swift. I mean, that's a guy who, was looking like potential, was turning into a star a few years ago in Detroit, kind of fell off due to injury these last few years, but excited to see his role in this defense. I mean, we've heard it all, but it's incredible. Great corners and the best D line arguably in the NFL. So I don't know if you've heard anything about the running backs that you want to throw in, but yeah.
Yeah. My sense was earlier in the competition, they kind of gave Gainwell the true RB1
Oh
job,
wow.
which was, very surprising. But that seemed almost more of like a you're the guy who's been here before type move. And it seems like since then, Penny has pretty quickly established himself as the best runner. But like you said, we could see 2 or 3 games out of him before he's out for the year, let alone,
Yeah.
half a season, which isn't even ideal. So,
Yeah.
That's obviously the big question mark with him. But if he stays healthy, I think he probably has that bell cow type season. And if not, you're looking at Swift probably picking up, most of what Sanders left off last year.
Yeah, super interesting. Kind of sad to see DeAndre Swift. He was I believe he was like a 2nd-round fantasy pick last year or something
Yeah.
crazy. And now it's like NFL is not kind to running backs, let me tell you. Moving on, Rams, Seahawks, NFC West showdown. Looks like Cooper Kupp probably not going to be playing this game. He's, seeing a specialist for his hamstring. Tough to see. I mean, this Rams team without Cooper Kupp is like, there's nothing really to watch for, it feels like almost. So yeah, Seahawks, they're also going to be without Jackson Smith and Jigba, which is a shame. I was looking forward to watching him. So we're going to have to wait a little bit longer I believe he's out, but maybe I saw him at practice though. So maybe he's going to play. I don't know, but I think he's going to be out, but who knows? But battle of the teams, missing a receiver. Rams, like we said, very young team. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't see any way the Rams win this game. I think truthfully, this is probably the worst team in the league when you stack up the rosters. Just looking at like an in theory on paper perspective. But they kept 14 rookies and most of them were undrafted just because they don't really have the money or talent to keep anyone else. So I think this is like, this could almost be a sort of sad season and a sad way to go for, what could be Donald's last year, what could be Kupp's last, healthy year, could be McVay. We've heard rumors about him leaving. So I think the Seahawks blow him out here, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. I think Seahawks are going to have a big win. A fun young team, like we kind of mentioned earlier. They've got a lot of these last 2 years in the draft. They've, gotten guys like Kenneth Walker, Tariq Woolen, and now Devin Witherspoon. They drafted Charles Cross last year. Like this team is, talk about a quick rebuild. When they traded Russell Wilson, it was looking like it was going to be, sad times in Seattle, and couldn't be the polar opposite of that. And good for them. I was looking at this Rams roster, and like some of these names are like, it is like crazy. Like these people are just like it's like crazy. I mean, there's just guys you haven't even heard of. It's most of the team you haven't heard of. I mean, I'm like blown away just thinking about the fact that this team was in the Super Bowl like 2-3 years ago, and now it's like you're scrolling through this. I mean, they've got a receiver, Puka Nakua from BYU. They've got all these guys. It's wild. Oh my god. Sorry, I know that Russ Yeast, the DB from Kansas State. Big year for Russ Yeast. I'm
Yeah,
a
big year for
Russ
me.
Yeast believer. Yeah, I'm a Russ. I want to see Russ Yeast in the slot this year. Yeah, Russ
I
Yeast against DK matchup to look out for this week.
I mean, who know? That could be what they end up throwing out there. I mean, they don't have any other better matchups right now. It doesn't look like so.
I want to see where my boy Russ Yeast is in the depth chart. Let's see if the depth chart loads here. Cornerback. He's not even on it. It doesn't look like he's even. Oh no!
No.
Starting safety, Russ Yeast, the
Wow.
boy out of Kansas State. Oh my God! What a number 2. That's a good DB number
That's a good
2. I feel
DB
like
number.
I feel like he's gonna be flying around this field.
Yeah.
5'10", 195. He played 15 games last year, 16 tackles. The boy is breaking
Really?
out. We'll check in next week. Russ Yeast.
Oh,
Did he have a pick? I'm feeling like he's picking one off Gino, and I'm gonna will it into existence. So yeah, sorry on that tangent, but I don't think you could even bet it. But if you can, Russ Yeast to record
Let's
an
see,
interception,
interception. Yeah.
you probably could bet $1 and win $1 million. So I mean, it's probably a good bet, honestly. Moving along, really fun game. Battle of the I don't even know what draft class they were at this point. I think it was 2020. Herbert and Tua. I
Yeah.
think that was the
Yeah.
COVID year. Yeah, Dolphins at Chargers. The return of Tua Tagovailoa. Obviously, Dolphins lose out on Jalen Ramsey. He's going to be back later in the season, but it would have been exciting to watch him in this game. But what are your thoughts? Obviously, two very young teams with very high aspirations in the AFC.
Yeah, I kind of talked about this last week. I'm not super high on the Dolphins. I
Yeah.
think you also have to look at, the difference between the best play call and the best thing for Tua's health, which can be
Yeah.
really different at times. You know, it's just a tough position for Mike McDaniel to be in, and I think this is going to be a Chargers team that's better coached on offense than they've ever been, and they've already been a good offense, and this defense started to get better last year. So I'm gonna take the Chargers here, going away. Actually, where is this game? I'm not
It's
sure.
home. It's home. It's in
It's
LA,
home for the
which is
Chargers,
kind
yeah.
of away. I mean, it's
Kind of away, but whatever. But yeah, no, I'll take the Chargers here at home.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick the Chargers too. I think it's one thing in the last week I feel like I've seen a lot of is just Dolphins hype. Actually, I feel like I've
Yeah.
seen like people. I forget who. It was something on ESPN I think today, on Instagram where it was some writer or something was ranking the teams in the NFL and he ranked the Dolphins number 5, and I was like, that's pretty crazy. Like obviously I do think they're gonna be a very good team. I think their offense is explosive, but like not like this team went out and really, signed an elite running back. They're going with, Raheem Mostert week 1. Jalen Ramsey's banged up right now. It's like, I don't know about top 5 in the NFL right now. I'm also going to go with the Chargers. I think we're going to see a big year from Herbert. I think he's going to bounce back. I think, this offense just has weapons. You got, Keenan, Mike Will, Quentin Johnson now there. Obviously, Eckler is going to do his thing. And defensively, health has just been the issue for this defense these last few years. Joey Bosa, Derwin James, guys who have spent way too much time on the injured list. So those guys, just the key is staying healthy. Joey Bosa, he's been bulking up. I saw some stuff of how he's been eating like 8,000 calories maybe a day or something crazy, like ridiculous. How he's like stuffing his face and never feels good, but he's doing it for the team, man. So hopefully he stays on the field. As well as Derwin James, because when they're on the field, both those guys, two of the best at their position. But yeah, I'm going to go Chargers at home. I think offensively, this team, I mean, this is going to be a really fun game, actually. Both these offenses. I mean, I think this is a game where I think Tyreek Hill is going to probably put up a nice 112 for 150 or something of that nature. So should be a fun game on CBS. So I would assume that is the game that they will be showing. Oh, but Eagles Pats. I don't know which one is I don't even know I don't know what the schedule is for CBS. Where I don't know where Jim and Tony are going to be, but it might be in LA. But who knows? Maybe it's with the defending champs. Do you know?
Well,
Let's see if it's
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
It could be Cleveland. I don't think they're
I
sending
could see
Tony and Jim
Cleveland.
to
That's what
Cleveland
I
though.
was thinking.
Yeah. Let's see. CBS football week 1. I feel like it's got to be now. Broadcast crews. They signed in July. That makes no sense. Oh, maybe this is just the teams. Oh no, week 1. Here it is. So they're sending Iron Eagle to Cleveland. So I think that's the number 2 team.
Yeah.
Jim is going to New England for the Eagles Pats.
Fun.
And Kevin Harlan, Dolphins Chargers. That kind of fits.
That feels fitting.
Yeah, that he feels right for that game, actually. So that's perfect. I love it. Kevin Harlan calling this game. That's perfect. Dolphins Chargers should be a fun one. We're both going Chargers here. Moving on to a probably not so fun game. Raiders Broncos. For Sean Payton's first game as head coach of Denver. Jimmy G's first start as a Vegas Raider. What are your thoughts? Do you think what are your thoughts? I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I think the most exciting part of this game is probably the Surtain versus Devontae Adams matchup we're gonna get to see. Hopefully twice a year for the next few years, as long as Devontae's still kicking it. But when you get past that, it gets a little bit less fun. But I think you're probably looking at a lower scoring Broncos ground control coaching type win would be my feel of this game. I think they're a little bit better on the offensive line, a little bit better on the defensive line, a little bit more star power, a little bit better coach. So I think I'll take them here, but I could really see this going either way. But I am excited for that Surtain Devontae Adams matchup we'll get to see.
Just talking about all this, it's like I need to like get in a time machine and get to Sunday, man. Like I cannot. I just don't want to go through these next few days without watching some football. We just have to get till Thursday. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Raiders here. We discussed this last week and we kind of had differing thoughts on these two teams. So yeah, I'm gonna go Jimmy G. I think it was this week that Stephen A was like ranting about him in the last week on First Take, like kind of way out of pocket, like
really out of
with
pocket.
Like porn stars all the time, and like he does with like it's crazy stuff. Like Stephen A on national TV. It was very funny, but just totally random. I don't know. There must be some like Jimmy G must have like behind like there must be some weird thing going on, or who knows.
Yeah, came after his health and it was a little out of pocket, but I enjoyed it. It was entertaining.
Yeah, I mean maybe it's fun watching Skip and Stephen A. It feels like try to compete for ratings at this point, and you see Shannon Sharp going over to First Take, which is fun. Skip's got his whole new cast of characters. So good. It's good for those debate shows. I feel like it was kind of dying out for a little bit. Totally off topic, but yeah, Jimmy G. First start with the Raiders. This guy, all he does, it feels like, is win. So I think he'll do more of the same. I'm just not sold on this Broncos team. I think Jerry Jeudy is out this game as well. So Denver going to be banged up at receiver. How that's how it's been for this team, unfortunately. I mean, they just have not been able to stay healthy. Last year, I think they were the most banged up team in the whole league, and not off to a good start with Tim Patrick tearing his Achilles, I think, and then Jeudy dealing with I think a hamstring or something of that nature. Should be low scoring, I think, probably like you said, though, kind of like it's just going to be a kind of weird it's a typical AFC West, the two bad teams kind of just like screw around for 60 minutes kind of game. So I'm going to go the Raiders, find a way to win. But yeah, I don't think this is the, who we're looking at CBS assignments. They're sending Tom McCarthy and James Lofton for this one. So, yeah, nothing against Tom, but feels like,
when me and Griffin don't know who a broadcaster is, that's how you know it's not the most well-known one.
I mean, I'm looking at some of these names. I don't really know actually most of these guys. Titans at Saints, Chris Lewis and Jason McCourty. I think they actually just did the Northwestern Rutgers game, maybe.
Really?
But then maybe because I was there and I think Jason McCourty was there. I don't know if he was with Chris Lewis. And then Texans Ravens. This this might be the best three names I've heard all day. Spiro Dedes, Adam Arculita, and Aditi Kinkabala. I botched all three of those, I'm sure, but regardless, I've not heard of one of those guys. Texans Ravens, they're on the call for it. So, yeah, we're just off a tangent right now.
All right, well, I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, Spiro. I hope he has a great call. Moving on to the two New York teams rounding out week one. Cowboys, Giants at MetLife. What a fun game. Dak Prescott feels like he is under a ton of scrutiny this year and just, the pressure's hot. They obviously made the trade for Trey Lance. Not that Dak's going to get benched. I think we're going to see Dak. I think this team will be good, but it's all about the playoffs for this team. This team has to find a way to win in the playoffs. And, there's a path in the NFC. It's just, Eagles, 49ers, can they beat either of those teams? I'm not so sure. But Cowboys, Giants, two rivals of your Eagles. What are your thoughts? Who pulls this one through? Who pulls this one out?
Yeah. So I think this is really going to come down to how well coached the Cowboys look on offense. It's a really simple thing, but they lost their offensive coordinator, and now they're going to Mike McCarthy, who frankly hasn't been a good offensive coordinator for over a decade. So, I think he was really, he was able to succeed with Rodgers as his quarterback, and now he's going to be calling plays again without, sort of an all-star squad of coordinators. So I hope, for football's sake that he's learned a little bit, but I'm worried if I'm a Cowboys fan that, this offense isn't going to have the same, juice and feel to it that it did under Kellen Moore. That being said, I will pick the Cowboys here. I just think too much firepower on offense for the Giants to keep up with.
It's gonna be an interesting game. I mean, it's a weird one. It's at MetLife, a night game. Like, I'm gonna go with the Cowboys. I feel like the last few years, I think last year we saw was it Cowboys Bucs last year to start the season or something? It was Cowboys maybe 2 years ago.
I believe so.
2 years ago, I think it was Cowboys Bucs, and then last year the Cowboys I think were in prime time. I don't. Because I think the game I'm thinking of, I think Amari Cooper was a Cowboy, which would have been 2 years ago. So I think I'm thinking of that, but I don't. It's all a blur at this point, honestly. I'm trying to think of.
I think they've actually played the Bucs 2 years in a row.
Now I gotta look at this. I feel like they did too. I feel like it was. Now it says. Let's see. No. I want 2020, 2022. Let's see. Oh no, it was Bills Rams to start the season last year. Okay, that's right. Okay. Total off topic again. I'm gonna go with the Cowboys though. I think that they're the team to beat.
Oh yeah.
Not team to beat. What am I even saying? Cowboys. I feel like Dak will show up. I think, like you said, this offense is probably a little too high power for the Giants to handle. And, the Giants, I think just some question marks offensively. I'm excited to see Darren Waller. I think he's going to have a really big year. Wide receiver still doesn't feel like they have that kind of key guy for Daniel Jones to throw to. They're going to mix it up. They've got, Isaiah Hodgins is back. Darius Slayton's still there. I think Sterling Shepard's still there. They draft Jalen Hyatt. I don't think I'm leaving anyone out, but maybe I am. But yeah, I'm kind of, I think that's one thing this team needs to add is just that key receiver. Obviously, Saquon back, which is huge for them. And I think they're going to have a good year once again. But I think ultimately, I think the Cowboys defense is going to win this game. I think they're going to give Daniel Jones some trouble. Obviously, he did better with the turnovers last season, but I expect we'll see one or two turnovers from Danny Dimes in week one. So I'm going to go Cowboys here. And final game, probably the most anticipated game of week one on Monday night, Bills at Jets. What an incredible, oh my God, the schedule makers really did themselves well with week one. Aaron Rodgers, Jets debut at MetLife against Josh Allen and the Bills. Buffalo favored to win this game. What are your thoughts, Bills or Jets?
Yeah, I am going to go with the Bills. I did pick the Jets to win this division. I will stick with that pick, but I think this is week one. This is in Buffalo.
It's in New York. It's at MetLife.
Oh, this is in New York. Okay,
yeah.
Interesting. So I take that back, but I still will take the Bills. I think this is a team that, right now has way less question marks and, is probably slightly more complete. But as we see the year go along, I think we're going to see this Jets team really grow and, kind of find their rhythm the same way the Bucs team did a few years ago with Brady when they won the Super Bowl. I think, maybe a slower start with this tough schedule could see them losing week one, like I just said, but I think they'll start to get it going as the season goes along.
I'm going to pick the Jets here. I feel like I kind of have to, but also I do think they will win this game. I'm not as high on Buffalo this year. I don't know. I kind of said it last week, but I just kind of feel like we've seen the same thing from them. I still think obviously this is going to be a playoff team and a team that wins double-digit games. But I think the Jets are just – if this was in Buffalo, I'd pick the Bills. But I think in MetLife, I think it's going to be I think the atmosphere is going to be absolutely insane. I mean, this is probably the craziest hype for the Jets. I mean, probably in like the franchise's history since Joe Namath. I mean, it's really, really crazy at this point.
So yeah, I'm gonna go with I might be muted. I don't know. Can you?
No,
hear?
I can.
You can hear me? Yeah. So I'm gonna go with Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. I think week one he's gonna come out firing. I think he really wants to show up, prove that this team's for real, and yeah, I think it's going to be a really good game, but I am going to go with the Jets. I also think their defense is better. than the Bills at this point, which I think, when one of these teams needs a key stop, I have more faith in the Jets defense than the Bills to kind of get that stop. So yeah, I'm going to go Jets. I think Garrett Wilson has a big game. Him versus Trey White, that should be a fun matchup. I think Trey White's going into the year healthy. So, hopefully that's the case. And yeah, what a week one, and super excited. Yeah. Well, that does it for our week one predictions. And I think that kind of does it for this week's episode of Outside the Arena. Anything else? Obviously, I mean, there other news in sports, I guess. USA lost in the FIBA World Cup the other day in a tough one. Got the US Open going on. UFC, I believe 293 is the number this weekend. You got Adesanya versus Sean Strickland, which is a fun matchup. So really good time. Obviously, MLB kind of kicking into the playoff hunt. Your Phillies looking well positioned to be back in the playoffs once again. But yeah, I mean, I think that kind of does it for this week's episode of Outside the Arena. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't already, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And yeah, happy to be back talking about the NFL, talking about college football. It's the best time of the year. And yeah, we'll be back. And yeah, we'll see you on the next episode of Outside the Arena.